Isabel from my wine school. Welcome. We have got my sister Karen in the room. Everyone say hello to Karen Bell. She's our resident chef and, of course, sister. And who do we have on the chat roll tonight? What do we got going on already over there?
Yeah, we've got Brian so far, Emily, Kujak's Wine Bar.
Hey, Sarah. Sarah from Kujak's Wine Bar.
Vinconimus.
Good to see you.
Some other people need to sign in and say hi.
Well, we better tell them how. So this is how you sign in. If this is your first time here, it's real easy. If you're watching this live, off to the right of the screen, you'll see a chat with MWS. Just below audience, type in anything. It'll take you to this screen. You can log in if you've got a username and password. If not, go ahead and sign up. It'll take you to this screen, you'll fill in 5 fields, and boom, you're a part of our conversation. Now be sure to let us know if you're having any problems, because we really want to get to the bottom of any kind of technological problems and figure it out. And in fact, tonight, you'll see if you've been with us for a while, we've added social stream. And what that is the ability to use your Facebook, Twitter accounts to also sign in, because some people, I think, were having some trouble with the chat. So if you want to go ahead and use that, it's pretty self-explanatory in terms of how to sign in. So here we are at WineCAST number 30. I feel like this is a monumental achievement here to be at number 30. What this is here is our Wine Explorer icon. We've got 3 levels. Right now we're just focusing on 1 level a week, and the reason is we're trying to build this up and get this to attract more attention so that we can do 3 a night, which include Wine Newbie, Wine Explorer, and Wine Guru. So if you like what you see tonight, please tell your friends so we can get more and more people on our community. So tonight for WineCAST number 30, what are we doing? We are doing Spanish whites, and Karen and I, the peanut gallery over there is cheering because as some of you guys know, Karen and I lived in Spain. Karen opened a restaurant there and lived there for over 5 years, and I was there for a couple years and worked at a winery. So we were a pretty dangerous duo when it came to eating and drinking. Mm-hmm. And we consumed a good amount of it personally. But tonight we're going to be doing Spanish whites, and let's actually show you the title real quick. So Spanish whites, the wine is from Telmo Rodriguez, Compañía de Vinos, it's Telmo Rodriguez, no, it's Compañía de Vinos de Telmo Rodriguez. So it's Telmo's company of wines, and this specific one is called Basa, and it's from Rueda, of course, Spain. Now, it's interesting because I think when people think of Spain, they think of white wine country. They think of red wine country instead of white wine country. And why do you think that is? Well, I mean, we were there. We saw tons of great white wines, but why would some people think Spain is a red wine country? Do you have any ideas or anyone?
I don't know. I hope it doesn't have to do with sangria, but
no, maybe, right? What do you guys think? You know, if you're out there, tell us why you think Spain is associated with red wine. And I thought, you know, maybe all the bulls, people think red, the red cape or flamenco. Or the other thing that I think some people think about is that Spain is always really hot. Mm-hmm. That's a misconception I think I've come across so many times, that Spain is hot. Mm-hmm. And if you do think Spain is a hot climate region, well then yes, it does make sense that they would make red wines. We tend to find red wine making in hotter climates and white wine making in cooler climates. But we are actually going to be talking about white wine today. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to kind of blow that out of the water, that Spain is a red wine country. And like I said, it's the Compañía de Vinos de Telmo Rodriguez. Would you mind, Vanna, holding it up close so people can see the label? And it's interesting because this wine, as we can see, is white. And although people think of Spain as being a red wine country, the most planted grape in Spain is white. And as of 2004, it was also the most planted grape in the world. So, do you know the name of that grape, Karen?
Palomino?
Palomino, no. Anyone out there? That's a highly planted grape in Spain, but it's actually Iren. If you want to type that in. Okay. Iren is, some say that it's no longer the most planted grape in the world because there's been some pulling up of vines, and there's been an increase in grapes like Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon. So Iren now is the most planted grape in the world as of, we'll say, 2004. It could have been taken over by some other grape since then. But it just goes to show there's a lot of white wine being made in Spain. And Thankfully, we will not be drinking Iren tonight. Iren, although as you see it there, Iren is not a high quality grape, but we're going to be drinking a high quality grape is the good news here. So we are going to be drinking a wine from Rueda. So you see that under the name of the wine. Rueda is this region in Spain. And let's go ahead and take a look at where Rueda is in Spain. So here's our great map from Vinos de España. Go and check out their website. Fantastic resources for learning about Spanish wine. And this is a map from their website. And you know, it's interesting, when we look at this map of Spain, this is really far south when we look at the map of Europe. I mean, that piece of land in the lower right-hand corner is Africa. Okay, so this is very far south in Europe. And so, yes, we would think latitude-wise, this is a very warm region. However, there are some really funky things going on in Spain that mitigate that southern latitude, and that is altitude. Spain is the second highest country in terms of altitude than any other country in Europe apart from Switzerland. And the capital of Madrid, the capital is Madrid rather, the capital is the highest capital in all of Europe. So Spain has the highest capital. And there's that green arrow pointing to where Madrid is. Now, it's interesting, Karen, because when we lived in Madrid, which has very high altitude, you don't think about it because it's fairly flat. It's on a very high plateau is what's going on. But when you think about living in Madrid, right, and you would come home from your restaurant at night in the middle of the summer and it was 100 degrees during the day, what was it like at night?
It was pretty cool.
It was cool. You needed a jacket most of the time. You needed a sweater. When I was getting up early, you know, crossing in the night, and I was going to work at the winery, you know, even though it was going to be 100 degrees that day, you have to put on a sweater in the morning. And that's typical of high altitude places. And as a result, what happens is those high altitude places help you make good white wines too. So we've got the heat for the red wines, but that altitude and the cool climate at night preserves the acid that is so important on our white wines. So if we look again at this map, we see that's where Madrid is. Madrid, if we want to talk like Madrileños. But if we look at where Rueda is, it's not very far from Madrid. So it's right there, in that purple region right there. You can see that it's not far and still on that fairly high plateau. And as a result, in Rueda, there you go, there's the close-up, Rueda has the ability to make great white wines with great acid on them. But we're going to show you in just a second that great acid. But before we do, we're going to do a wine IQ. But as a lot of you know, a lot of my wine peeps out there know, you should be drinking anyways. My mom is very adamant that we have people who are enjoying themselves on this WineCast. So make sure you are sipping on something. We don't care what, but just having a good time. So before we dive into actually tasting this wine, we've got to do the first wine IQ. So a wine IQ is a wine interactive question, and it's meant to get you involved and chatting away with us. So this first wine IQ says, which Spanish region is known for creating an intentionally oxidized style of white wine? Now you might think I'm absolutely bonkers in putting this question in. It's like, what does this have to do with tonight's WineCast? Don't worry. I haven't lost my marbles completely. I will show you this has relevance to what we're talking about today. And in fact, I'm going to start with a little history lesson. I've got to kind of go a roundabout way to get back to this. So I want to hear what you guys think. I'll repeat it. Which Spanish region is known for creating an intentionally oxidized style of white wine? A, port, B, sherry, C, cava, or D, sangria. Okay? So a little history lesson, like I said. Okay, in 711, the Moors, who are from Africa, come and conquer the whole Iberian Peninsula. So this whole map we see here was conquered by the Moors. And for 750 years after that, from the north of Spain, the Spaniards were fighting their way down, trying to reclaim the Iberian Peninsula. It took them about 750 years till 1492. However, in the 11th century, Rueda, which is where we see that purple region with the green arrow, was under Spanish control. Okay, so that was owned by the Spaniards, but that region that has that delicious white oxidized wine is, Karen, has anyone come in with the right answer?
Yep, Kujak's Wine Bar said sherry.
All right. So it is sherry. So exactly. So sherry is an intentionally oxidized style of wine. Now, what does that have to do with Rueda? Well, here, Rueda at the top in the purple region is under the Spanish control. However, sherry at that time in the 11th century is still under the Moorish control. So as a result, the Spaniards loved their sherry but could not get it from where it originally came from. So Rueda took on that role. And Rueda was making oxidized styles of wine. And they had been doing that for a long time until actually quite recently. So now it's interesting because in Rueda, this was quite easy for them because this is the grape, over here. This is the grape that is used in Rueda and has been used for perhaps over 1,000 years, called Verdejo. And the great thing about it for them was that Verdejo oxidizes easily. So they didn't need to do these elaborate systems of oxidizing the wine. This grape just did it on its own fairly nicely for them. So as a result, we would get these oxidized styles of wine. Now let's finally start tasting this wine. Let's see if we get an oxidized style of wine on this particular wine. And the first place you can see whether a wine is oxidized or fresh and fruity is on the color. So here is our Basa Rueda. Okay, we would probably describe this as a pale lemon color. Now, I actually happen to have a bottle of sherry here, so just, in case something would come up that we would need it. And sherry, like I said, is an intentionally oxidized style, meaning they allow oxygen to come into contact with this wine with the intention of creating a certain style. Now, here's our sherry. So now if you look at these, hopefully you can tell. Yep, good. Okay, it worked. Our sherry has more of a golden, deeper hue, and our Rueda over here has more of a pale lemon. So already we're seeing on our Rueda that it's a non-oxidized style. Okay, so that's, thank God that has changed in modern day here. Okay, so we've got a pale lemon color on that. Now, what's interesting is that that style changed from that oxidized style to this fresh and fruity style in about the 1970s, when this particular winery, Marqués de Riscal, which was based in Rioja, which is they make red and white, but they weren't happy with their white wines in Rioja. And so as a result, they came over to Rueda and said, we're gonna make some white wines. And you know what? We're gonna bring with us some modern techniques for making wine, such as stainless steel, and they're gonna harvest at night with lights, which keep the grapes nice and cool before harvest. And then we're gonna blanket it with inert gases so that oxygen cannot come into contact with the grapes. And then again, we're gonna use stainless steel in order to prevent oxygen from oxidizing this wine. And so Marqués de Riscal was one of the first to do that, and later more and more wineries came into the area to create this, what we call DOC, Rueda, okay? Now, let's go ahead and smell this wine, the Basa Rueda, and see if we get what we'd expect from a fresh and fruity wine, okay? And that would probably be more of the fruit and maybe a little spice, but what we're looking for on a fresh, young style of wine with no oak would be fruit. So go ahead and take a sniff and tell me what you guys smell on the nose. I also want to know if this smell reminds you of a certain grape that you may have more often than, say, a Verdejo. Okay, so the wine we have today is a Verdejo, and yet it's very reminiscent of a certain grape. So, Karen, what do you think? Do you get any notes of fruit, earth, or spice? Anything more?
I get a lot of fruit. I get a lot of citrus and almost a touch of tropical fruit as well. And I'm getting some minerality there as well.
Okay, perfect. So some citrus, minerality, maybe some tropical notes. Yeah, definitely. I get definitely some of these citrus notes, some of that minerality, but also a little bit of a grassy note on it as well, and almost like a lemongrass note on it. And now, even if you don't have the wine, it might remind you of some other ones. And, you know, I think Sarah is chimed in with Chenin Blanc and Sauvignon Blanc. And Sarah had also gotten some fruit on the wine. Vinconomus is getting tropical fruit and grass, maybe some hay. We're seeing some fruit from Felicia and Milwaukee. So these are all leading towards a very typical description of, Sarah, you nailed it, Sauvignon Blanc. And it's interesting because this, when Marcus de Riscal came to this area, he had the guidance of one of the most well-known, respected enologists or winemakers in the world. His name's Émile Pinaud. And our Frenchie in San Francisco, that's you, Emily. If you could write that name, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. If you could write that name into the chat roll, Émile Pinaud. He was the one who came down and said, okay, we're going to make some really great wine with some of the most modern winemaking techniques available to us in the 1970s. So stainless steel. And it was under his suggestion that they pushed for Sauvignon Blanc as well. So as a result, what we saw happen is that not only did the original, the indigenous grape of the area, Verdejo, be integrated into the DOC, but also Sauvignon Blanc. So this particular wine is primarily Verdejo. It is about 80% Verdejo. It has a touch of Sauvignon Blanc and actually a little bit of Viura. Thanks, Emily, for putting that on. Good, came through for me. So we've got Verdejo and Sauvignon Blanc, which are very typical of Ruedas, and it can be up to 50% Sauvignon Blanc in your Verdejos, depending on whether it's a Rueda DOC or not. Okay. So this is a great one. This is a great wine to look for if you like Sauvignon Blanc or a friend of yours likes Sauvignon Blanc, but you want to do something different. You're sick of always doing the same grapes over and over again. This is your Sauvignon Blanc look-alike, and yet it's a little different from that. So now, sorry about that. Now we want to go and taste it. You're like, finally, let's do it, okay? Brian, thank you. Brian called me out, it is a DO, not a DOCA, not there's two levels of DOs in Spain. You have Denominación de Origen, which is quality wine, and then Denominación de Origen de Calificada. So DOC small a. And I think I was saying DOC. I may have been in, I was in an Italian grocery store earlier today, so maybe that rubbed off on me a little. Sorry about that. So it is a DO. Thanks, Brian. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and taste the wine, right? Let's see what you think. And when you taste the wine, what I want you to think about are a couple things. You can tell me about certain components of the wine, so acid or body or sugar levels, or you can comment on things like quality parameters, such as complexity, intensity, concentration, the length of the wine. Go ahead and take a sip and let me know what you think. And while we're doing that, Karen, let's show them what we have behind the cameras there.
Yeah, I've been a little distracted this whole WineCAST because I have a huge plate of cured ham in front of me. That's so not fair. I'm
tempting her. Put cured pork in front of my sister, and I was like, what is wrong with her today? She cannot focus. Like, come on. But what I did, if any of you remember last week, I said I was going to provide the appetizers.
Yeah, nice.
So my definition of cooking is going to the store and buying really high quality, simple foods.
That works.
And put them on a plate and enjoy them. A pretty plate. So could you show them what we've got here? Sure. And I want to know what you guys are eating with this too. That is actually, I wish I could say it's jamon. It's prosciutto. Like I said, I was at the Italian grocery store, and it's a great grocery store. So I did get prosciutto, but similar ideas. And then I got the really good olives. I got raw milk manchego cheese. Nice. Also have some pate on there. I love pate. That's Europe turned me on to pate. And then of course the Marcona almonds from Spain. So Karen, you can go ahead and start researching food and wine pairings. I want to hear what your research yields here. So I think, on the palate, some of you are saying fruit and hay Vincanum, you wrote something funny, could appeal not only to humans, but to a horse with a refined nose. Nice comment, yes. So sometimes they have a little bit of an old world, kick to them. So yeah, definitely. Good, yeah. Emily mentioned that horses are also pretty evolved. So what this wine has a lot of characteristics that you might find from a Sauvignon Blanc. So really good acid, smooth, good amount of fruit, a little bit of an old world touch to it, and that acid is what's going to go so well with all these salty foods here. I mean, it should really do nicely with those. And what I love about these Spanish whites is that you get a wine with a personality. You get a wine that is different. It's not your Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay, and yet they come in at these fantastic prices. Spain has a great stock of old vines. It's actually the country with the most vines, most land under vines than anywhere in the world. And you add to it now these old vines and this long tradition of winemaking, and you add to it correct, clean winemaking techniques such as stainless steel, and you get this personality at a super low price. This one's about $10. I mean, this is one of my go-to wines for crowd pleasers, party wines. It works quite nicely. I see Felicia is having it with some Caso de Cabras from Andalusia. I love it. Mm-hmm. Perfect. We want to know how it's going, Felicia. Also the olives. Perfect. And Karen, what did your research yield on the pairings? Did you try them all?
Yes.
Or no, she didn't.
With everything.
She did not try them all. She ate the pork the whole time. There was no olive eating, no cheese eating.
Well, I have to get into the pork before you get a chance.
Okay, all right.
There won't be any left.
So let's tell us, what was the pork like? Was the prosciutto?
Yeah.
Any comments on what it does to the wine?
Well, let me see. Let me do it again. Let
me revisit the pork. Let me revisit the prosciutto. In the meantime, Vincanum is mentioning, yes, that Madrid is the home of the Museum of Pork. Great comment, definitely. You walk around, there's just legs of pigs hanging everywhere. You learn to love it. Emily has a great comment about the palate. Lots of pear, a little bit more weight and waxiness than a Sauvignon Blanc. Perfect, definitely. You get a good amount of sunshine. I mean, this is a hot region, and so we do get that weight and that ripeness, and yet it maintains its acid quite nicely. So Karen, on this revisit to the prosciutto, what did you find?
I find that it kind of rounds out the acidity a bit more, and it makes it kind of a more balanced wine in the mouth.
Definitely. And so prosciutto has lots of flavor. So you need something as intense as a Sauvignon Blanc or a Verdejo to go with a food like that, but it's full of salt because it's cured. And so that salt in your prosciutto will tend to bring down levels of acid, bring down levels of astringency, even bring down levels of tannin in your wine. So it works quite nicely. If we had a wine that was too low in acid, that prosciutto would absolutely kill it. The acid would be too low that the wine would seem flat if you drank it with it. Okay, so I would love to know what you guys think about the wine if you do have it. And I like to tell people, think about what you would do with this wine. Think about the quality, but then also think about your personal preference. Would you dump it, finish it, buy it, stock it, or save it? Karen, how about you? What would you do with this wine?
Oh, definitely stock it.
Stock it, yeah. For $10?
Yeah.
Easy. That's me too.
I love Spanish whites. And I think it's important to note that they're even underappreciated in Spain. I don't think they're appreciated to their full potential even in Spain.
That's a great point. So, I'm sorry I had you off camera the whole time. So, they are not appreciated in Spain, definitely, and they're not appreciated here in America. And it's Verdejo from Rueda is really just a starting point. You've got Verdejo from up in the northwest. You've got Albarino. You've got Viura, Rioja. White Riojas are fantastic as well. I mean, you've got some really fantastic whites, even some more international grapes like Riesling and Gewürztraminer over in the east of Spain near Penedès and Costas del Segre. Those are places that are also making some pretty cool white. So definitely, and the prices on them are fantastic because they tend to not be oaked. They tend to be undervalued, so there's not a lot of demand on it, so you can really get a good price on it. So what are they saying about the wine?
Agrees. Definitely stock it.
All right, fantastic.
And drink it.
And drink it, yes, definitely drink it, stock it, and then drink it again. So that, yeah, definitely, I would agree with that. I think that's all the time we've got for today. I wanted to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and I hope you guys have some fun pairings. I don't know if anyone wanted to add any additional pairings that you would put with this wine. We always want to get good suggestions on pairings. For next week, we are going to be going into Spanish Red. So we're going to be doing a wine from Rioja that talks specifically about the aging terminology. So Crianza, Reserva, and Gran Reserva. So I think that's all we got for you tonight. I hope you guys had a great time. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jessica Bell from My Wine School, where it is wine your way.